the very first conversation that you and I ever had in our entire time of knowing each other was actually about a Hulk Hogan TV show that somehow we both watched in the 1990s growing up called Thunder in Paradise. And I went back and watched some of that this week with my kids, and man, they do not make it like that anymore. They don't make anything like that.
They really don't. Yeah, Thunder in Paradise is this kind of lost classic in a way. It's it's this absurd premise. Hulk is this kind of special forces guy who's living somewhere like Hawaii, and he has a special kind of transforming boat that he kind of rides around in and solves crimes and fights the Cuban communists and all sorts of other absurd stuff. And there are bikini clad women, and he's got a sidekick, and it was just totally over the top, really kind of absurd stuff. A bit kind of like Baywatch, but with guns and explosions. And for some bizarre reason, they showed it on British television on a Saturday on Saturday afternoon, and so I watched it when I was sort of 6 or 7. I mean, I also watched, of course, wrestling, WWF as it was back then. I had a friend whose parents had satellite, and so I could watch WWF, and we would watch The Undertaker and Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and the British Bulldog, and of course Hulk Hogan. So I mean, Hulk Hogan was a huge part of my childhood, and he was a huge part of yours. And yeah, it was actually the pretty much the very first thing we bonded over was this absurd, silly mid 90s television show with Hulk Hogan in it.
But let's so zoom out for a minute. What was it about Hulk Hogan as a figure, and and what was it about our society at that time? So it's he really is a figure. You almost can't separate it from the Cold War and then the end of the Cold War and all of the
Mm.
pressures that were sort of pushing into that, because this feeds into Hogan. He doesn't originally have the Real American soundtrack. He's given that. He holds the flag and just transforms immediately into this larger than life figure, because he's not just a wrestler anymore. He's somehow become this living icon of the nation itself.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan really did. I mean, for me, look, a little kid growing up in rural England, watching wrestling on satellite. I mean, there were loads of big personalities. Of course, there were. There was The Undertaker. There was Shawn Michaels. But there was just something about Hulk Hogan. He did, like you say, he seemed to personify in all of its aspects the American dream. And I mean, he literally personified it in the sense that he was, 6 feet 8 inches tall, 300 plus pounds. I mean, everything about him was absurd and overblown and raucous and out of this world. I mean, for a little boy like I was, watching from a rural English village, it was actually like having a window not into another country, but actually onto another planet. I mean, this guy was like an alien or something. I mean, he's so different from the norm for sort of an English boy, and it was so glamorous, and it made America seem like this incredible place of opportunity, and where literal giants walk the earth and perform superhuman feats of strength, and on a nightly basis. I mean, it was incredibly alluring, and Hulk Hogan just seemed to capture, I think, the real kind of absurdity and the overblown nature of the American dream, of the hopes and aspirations of the American people, and this kind of vision actually of like, he's an ordinary guy, and then he becomes this incredible superstar. I mean, it is the American dream. It's the American dream advertised nightly
Well,
in a
and
squared
and
circle.
and what is so you have that, and of course Hollywood came calling. His first movie, Rocky III, tremendous success, took over the entire world, and you've got a number of figures in there. You've got from Carl Weathers to Mr. T to Sylvester Stallone himself, Hulk Hogan. And people look and say, where can I get more of this type of thing? And of course, they turn to the WWF. And what is Hogan doing there? And again, it's not complicated. It's not some large complicated story. It's what he does is, how do you present someone as a hero? You go and have them slay the giant. You have them go out and kill the giant that's been terrorizing the land, and that's exactly what they did. And what's amazing, and I want to tie that back into this as well, because this is another element of it. When Hulk Hogan fought Andre the Giant, people say, "Oh, well, it's scripted, it's scripted." Yeah, well, so is Marvel, okay? So is Star Wars, right? But what's different here is he's actually lifting a 500-pound man over his head and slamming him to the ground. That requires actual physical. He tore every muscle in his back, and talked about it for years. That it was an injury that stayed with him for the rest of his days until his death itself at 71. And that match wasn't held in Madison Square Garden or Los Angeles or any of these big cities. It's held in Pontiac, Michigan, right? So this hard scrabble, rural, industrial, working class, blue collar area, but they still get 93,000 people into the arena. Why? Because, well, your area, and that was what was so great about wrestling. Your area may not have a professional sports team or some massive downtown, but you know what? Hulk Hogan might be coming, and you can go and see him perform these incredible feats without having to go too far or even pay that much money.
Yeah, it's I mean, look, people rag on wrestling and always have ragged on wrestling for being fake, and maybe it's unsophisticated, and the only people who like it are rubes, etc. But it's I mean, it's not none of it's true. I mean, what you were saying about slaying the giant. Look, I mean, we're talking about archetypal stories, and yes, the hero going out and slaying the giant, slaying the dragon. This is an archetypal type of story, and it's a type of story that everybody can get behind, everybody can understand, and everybody knows who's right and who's wrong, and everybody can root for the good guy. And that's what they did with Hulk Hogan. But I
It's
think,
quite literally
yeah, I
in the
mean,
Bible.
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, it's David and Goliath. We're talking about the oldest kind of stories being played out in a totally novel format, with modern glitz and glamour and pyrotechnics and, beamed around the world on satellite and all that kind of stuff. But nevertheless, this is deep, deep human interest that we're seeing play out. And but what is interesting as well, like you say, is look, that didn't take place at Madison Square Garden. That took place in Pontiac, Michigan, right? So ordinary people could literally watch these giants, these superheroes, and they were superheroes. They could watch them. They could be within feet of them, within 10 feet or 100 feet of these two giants going at it in this archetypal, like biblical story. It's like here's a restaging of David versus Goliath, but it's also a story about America. So I mean, it was a supremely effective way, I think, actually, of making people feel patriotic, making people feel like they were part of this grand kind of tableau, this grand story, that not only is about America as a nation, but also about sort of like human achievement, striving, good versus evil.
And
I mean, it's incredibly powerful.